camera off too. And
okay, I can see the slide now.
Slide. Okay, so let me put it on full screen and we'll see what happens as we do this. So good morning, everyone. I'm Amanda and I'm here with
Aaron from Taiwan. Hello, everybody.
And we are discussing the Introduction to Change Wars, A Hopeful Struggle. This is, of course, by the two editors, Hargreaves and Fullen. And I will move forward. And in this, they present a lot of sort of philosophical ideas about how change happens. So we're going to start with a little video.
Could I call you right back? Good afternoon, Bob. I was wondering if I could have $500,000 to upgrade our call center technology. Well, sure. In fact, I think I'll just give you the cash. Thank you. Nice. Stanley, stop goofing off, okay? I need you to work. I need you to work. You got me?
Oh, Jim, hi. Hey, listen, I need you to find a way to connect our two contact centers with the ones from the new acquisition. Can you handle that for me?
Well, of course. I can flip the switch, have it done right now.
Knew you could.
Done.
Great. Oh, and I'm out of M&Ms. Could you bring me a pack of those too?
Excuse me? Hey, Bill. The CEO's ordered a new green initiative. Wants half of our contact center staff to work from home. Think you can set that up? No problem. That should just take a second. There you go. You the man. If only it were that simple. Nice work. With WS.
Okay, so obviously we wish that change was that easy in education, but it's clearly not. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that Hargreaves and Fullen bring up that indicate how change really does work and the struggle that we have to get through it. So Hargreaves and Fullen state that few people really change unless at some point they see the need to do so. And I've witnessed this personally just in the last few weeks in my center, and it definitely relates to my problem of practice for my time management issue with students. In the last 3 weeks in the Learning Center, we've seen an increase of about 22% of students coming in seeking help. And I guess anecdotally, what the tutors tell me is that these are students who really should have made the time earlier, but they didn't realize until the final 3 weeks of school that they were really struggling and needed the extra assistance. And so this is sort of really the case with this quote is they don't change unless it's come down to a teacher saying, you know, you're not going to make it. And then they feel the need to do something different.
And similarly, on my problem of practice, one thing that I've come to learn over the 4 years I've been at this school is kids are very good at hiding their emotions and their feelings and how they are interacting with people. If they're having a hard time with something, at our school, many of the teachers don't really pick up on a lot of situations because there is a lack of the verbal context. A lot of kids staying in their own language don't express too much to our teachers. So a lot of times they'll find out issues down the road whenever weeks have gone by where intervention could have come in and helped. And it's something that I've learned that just comes with time at our school, but it's something that people, once they see where the issue is, why it's going on, and are able to reflect and see how they can be a part of the solution, they're willing to jump in and make the change. But until they actually know something's going on at this point, they're oblivious to what is happening and that there is even a problem. So we have a quote here from page 2 of our book. It says, "In schools, teachers might start an exciting new project with a few equally energetic colleagues, but they get stuck when trying to convert those who are more skeptical." This is a very common occurrence in and around change implementation, especially in education. We've all experienced resistance at some point during our career. And the truth is, many of us, including myself, have probably been a part of this blockage in change for whatever reasons that we might have. But skepticism is a very, very common issue when it comes to change, and it does cause a lot of the blockages to actually implementing change in itself. Amanda, do you have anything to add on this one?
No, I don't.
Okay,
So
we're
we'll
going to move on.
move on. Okay, so Hargreaves and Fullen, this is their key point. This is the big question that they ask that I believe drives sort of the rest of the book. How do we do the right things well, not get distracted by the wrong things, involve and include everyone who is effective, keep the momentum and the impact going, and prevent burnout by ensuring the change agenda is manageable and coherent? And this is a huge philosophical question. But it asks all of the right sort of sub questions in there. I think we tend to get lost in the trees, and we don't really see the forest. We don't see sort of the big picture because we have to deal with all of the little weeds all the time. I know that my campus right now is undergoing a major change to a new student information system. And I've watched in meetings people get tied up with these little sort of minuscule ideas rather than focusing on sort of the bigger key issues and finding ways to address the key issues. One of the key issues is that we now have to require students to pay all of their fees before class actually starts. And for our campus, that is it is a really, really big shift. But rather than focusing on that, faculty and administrators are caught up with things like, how do we access our rosters? When we may not have rosters to access if we can't help students learn this new system and be able to pay these fees and do things like that. Aaron, did you have something about this?
Sure. I really just want to reiterate what you said with regard to the philosophical aspects. This is very, very hard hitting to what the section really talks about. It really, really hones in on almost a sample of a thesis statement, and this is what we're looking for. This is what we're engaging in. This is what we're trying to see, and a lot of this can really come down to the aspect of variables in our jobs, variables within our work context, within our problem of practices as well. I know within my own, there's going to be a daily distraction that many of us, we have to look at and say, how much time should we spend on this? How big of an effect does this really cause? What is it taking away from? And whenever we're going through the phase of change implementation, it can cause great pieces of that change to be affected.
I think also too, this one reminds me particularly these guys who are pushing this giant snowball of this idea of having a community of practice that really supports the person leading the change sort of through the change and helping that person avoid the distractions or to move past the distraction. And I think some of those things are concepts that we really need to keep in mind as we move forward with our own practices.
I think that's wonderful, keeping it positive, keeping it focused on the right agenda.
Okay. Aaron, did you want to take this one?
Sure. All right. So here we're getting to page 5 now. It says, education is entirely about change, about drawing things out of people and creating the generations of the future. And effective change is inalienably about learning, figuring out the best way forward for the greatest good. So for me, it comes down to what is our question really about? What is our focus in education? Do people fully recognize this concept of education, that change is education and education is change? It comes down to how we see education as a philosophy, education as a way of growing and changing. When we look at it on the simplest levels as our students, they're in classes to learn, to change their ideas, to change the way they think. Many of these aspects. As teachers, we're trying to implement these as well. As administrators, we're trying to build a place to where change can occur on all levels.
I agree. And I think this cartoon over here on the left, this "you will be appointed principal of a school and will resist change for your entire career," is something that does occur in education. We get kind of locked into our own way of doing things, and we don't necessarily think about how to change. Yet at the same time, as teachers, as administrators, as staff, we are always asking students to do things differently, and we're asking them to change in ways that we are not always willing to do ourselves. And I think that kind of leads into some of our final points.
I concur completely. Now you're going to take this one, correct?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Okay, so Hargreaves and Fulham point out that change does not come passively or always peaceably. And as you can see here, Calvin claims to thrive on change, but really he thrives on making other people change. And I think that this happens quite frequently in education. I know, for example, that we have a professional development coordinator who really should be like the bastion of change and the one who is the most willing to sort of try new things and get people on board. But he's surprisingly resistant to that. At the same time, he will have people come in and say, you should do this, you should do that, you should change this way. But he doesn't lead it himself. And I think this also manifests with administrators who leave the classroom. Over the years, I've grown more and more convinced that even the president of a college should still teach a class. They should know what it's like in the classrooms on their campus, because they frequently ask faculty to change and to do new things and different things, and yet they're very passive about it because they're not actively engaged in it themselves. And so I think that if we really want change to occur, it needs to be, top down and bottom up, and everybody meets in the middle, and it needs to be a really active engagement by everyone.
I really like that you point that out. My school is a very interesting place when it comes to this, and I haven't experienced it anywhere else. But we have a rule that everyone, all administrators, including our headmaster, has to teach a class. It's something that I think we look at as an opportunity to engage our kids and work with them. And we don't necessarily see it in the context of what we're talking from the top down, bottom up aspects, but it works that way. It keeps our ears to the ground, and it also helps us build empathy with our kids, with our teachers, with our department chairs. Everyone is involved at some level like that, and it does pay its dividends.
I see. I knew my hunch was right. I really think that's just such an excellent thing, because then everyone knows what it's like, and I think that makes change easier.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think we are coming down to close to the end here. With our final point, changing the world begins with change in ourselves and then with changes in one another. I feel like this is such an obvious point, and yet I think everything we've discussed shows that it's really a hard position to take. It's looking in the mirror and really recognizing that it's not your colleagues that need to change, that it's you who needs to change. Would you agree, Aaron?
Yeah, it's easy to walk around and say, we need to change this, we need to change that. But when someone else comes up to you and has an idea themselves, and even if you're not necessarily open to that idea, you should be open enough to have the conversation at the bare minimum. we have to be open to change ourselves. We have to be open into looking to what is best for us as well, and the school. And if we are unwilling to change for ourselves, we're not doing anyone any justice. We're ending up like your PD man, and you can see how that works out in general. This was actually my favorite part of the entire introduction. It really, really hones into the root of what we're talking about. We can talk about the pillars. We can talk about so many different aspects of change, but when it comes down to it, none of that is possible without our attitude and our mentality going towards it. I love the quote from the picture that is on this slide here. It says, "Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself." We have to be wise enough to look at ourselves and say, okay, this is what we can work on.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I really loved this picture that you found. I thought this was really perfect, and I want to like put it on my syllabus, I think, in the future, and remind students that I want students to know that I'm willing to change, and I will help them be willing to change as well. And I think that kind of willingness really will go a long way to helping students see the need to change their behaviors or their attitudes or things like that. Is if I can model it, then hopefully they will see that it's possible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's our presentation. So I'm going to exit this and go back to our let's see, stop screen sharing. Okay, so we had just a little more than 5 pages to work with in our text because we had the introduction. The rest of it is taken up with summaries of the rest of the book, summaries of all of the other chapters, and we are not going to go into those because that's for everybody else to do. So I think that's all that we have. Erin, anything from you?
No, it was a pleasure working with you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Erin.